Welcome you. Good day. Welcome to Refresh. It's a time for us to connect, be inspired, to learn something, and ultimately feel better for the time we spend together. Can you believe that February is almost over? I felt like it was a blink. I know it's a shorter month. It's a month of love. I love the love that is expressed in February. But with the pace of activity in the world around us, I sometimes feel like I'm living in a cartoon, moving at the pace of Roadrunner. Do you guys, any of you remember Roadrunner? It's that very, very fast bird. They go, "Rrrr," and then it goes beep, beep. I don't know why that came to my mind, but I feel like I'm at that pace. And then when I just think about I'm going to lose trying to keep up at that pace, I see an email in my inbox from the wonderful, amazing actress and inner fitness guru, Tina Lifford. And it says, breathe, release, and connect. And you know how the universe sends you messages actually all the time? It's just whether we choose to see them or not. And this one, right, hit me right between the eyes. I said, wow, wow, breathe, release, and connect. And of course, then I realized I was going to be with all of you and get to spend time with Alescia. And I'm like, thank you, Tina. And we look forward to seeing her. As you know, she will be joining us at Generation W this year, March 28th. We hope that you'll be joining us as well. And she'll be giving us a lot more sage advice. But I'm taking it for this morning. And then there was one other sage piece of advice that Sherry shared with me. It was a quote. And it said, it went like this. We launched at night. It was the darkest part of the night. Once the rocket launched, I saw how it illuminated such a dark space. So even when you are in a dark space, you can let your light shine. And I thought, wow, for me, all of that comes together today at noon for a refresh when we get to meet the beautiful and wonderful Alescia Winsley. Alescia is a NASA engineer, a lead space launch systems engineer. Her work on the Artemis mission, which we're going to learn all about, is something we all will learn from, I think. We'll get, and her personal journey. How did she get sitting in that seat? So let's all welcome, Artemis. Alescia, welcome, and joining us for Refresh. We know we've met before. She's also one of our mentors for Generation Wow in Orlando. We could talk a little bit about that later. But oh my God, there's so much talk about space today. Why? Why?
Well, thank you so much first for having me. I am thrilled to be here. And hearing you say that quote just reminds me and kind of sparks a little light in me as well, just to remember with all of the things that are going on. And with space, I think it's the idea of the unknown. And we want to just explore and see and discover the what ifs and what will be and what can be. And with those things in mind, that's really how we as engineers kind of push the envelope and discover the things that are unknown that can help society, not just us personally, but the greater good of all.
Right. So, you talk about the unknown, and I love that, right? Generation W is coming up. Everybody knows that. And our theme is explore. And so explore space to me is about the pushing of human curiosity. So
Yes.
what was part of your motivation for like actually entering this space of space work?
Okay, so that's always a funny question for me because it wasn't. I did not grow up like I want to work at NASA or I wanted to be space. I knew all about it, but I am from a very, very small town in Mississippi, Cleveland, Mississippi, and I never knew that this was possible. So being here now, the little girl in me is like, wow. At every time I get to go to work and I get to do all of the cool stuff that I do, the little girl in me is like, wow, you are doing such a great job. And then I get to tell the little girl, wow, look at how far you have come from where you started. So that's kind of how I got my start here. But I worked in another federal agency. I did undergraduate at Jackson State University in Mississippi, and through there did a lot of research and things with the government. Went on to a different organization, and then one day I was kind of, okay, I've kind of ran my course here. What else can I do? What else is out there? And lo and behold, I started doing this discovery of the Challenger accident, what kind of learning the things that what happened that caused, what went wrong and how to prevent that from going further. And then like a week later, a job announcement came out that they were looking for people at NASA. And I was like, well, that was in really good timing there.
And you answered just like
Yes,
that.
yes. And I applied for it, had a really great interview, and it was amazing. I've only been at NASA 5 years, a little over 5 years, but it seems like it's been my entire career for how much joy that I've gotten in doing what I do now.
So there's so many things to talk about there, and we're going to learn about NASA and more about space because you're going to teach us about that.
Yes,
Here you are, this young girl from Cleveland, Mississippi,
yes.
as you say, a small town,
Hmm.
and you are exploring, right? I mean, listen,
Hmm.
like, obviously, I'm into this exploring thing. What gave you the courage to explore? And what gave you the courage to say, yes, I can do that? Because so often we are the worst purveyors of our own selves moving forward.
So I always had a love for math. So I love math. I love numbers. Give me the calculations. Let me do all of the hard things in math. I loved it. In my senior year in high school, at that point in our school, we didn't have a whole lot of extra classes that you could take. So I had taken all the calculus to physics and everything, but we didn't have dual enrollment at that time. So our one of our professors, one of our teachers came up with the class where she bought these parts of a computer, and we actually built those computers and then donated them to a local elementary school. So that was what sparked the idea of, okay, maybe I want to do something with computers. Even when I got to Jackson State, I really still didn't know what it was that I wanted to do. And I went to go see my advisor, and she said, yeah, you're right. You look like you like a lot of math. You're doing good in the sciences. You're going to be a computer engineer. And I said, okay.
Just like that.
Yes, I said, okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yes,
Wow. It
so I
reminds
had
me,
great mentors along the way that for things that I didn't understand and couldn't put the pieces together, they helped me to put the pieces together to see what it is that I needed to do.
yeah, but you are so inclined to be positive about the opportunities in front of you, right?
Yes.
That's what we try to teach our WOW girls. That's what try to teach our Generation W women is, right? It's all about the
Yeah.
positive possible. It reminds me of the story of Dia Wynn, who has been
Mm.
with us. She'll be back at Generation W again as one of our guests, but she's been on the stage. She
Nice.
was the AI ethicist for Amazon.
Mm. Oh,
And she
wow.
talks about being in third grade and a computer came on her desk. She grew up in Harlem and she's like, I was in love. And that was it.
Yeah.
So you were in love and that was it. And there was no noise around you telling you you couldn't do it.
I think I didn't have an opportunity to listen to the noise, because if I did it, then I would just be like what I saw. And unfortunately, as I mentioned, our town is very small. So we come from, Mississippi, small town, even. So I say I come from the poorest part of the poorest state. And so there was no other alternative. It was either be what I saw or be what I didn't see. And I didn't know what I didn't see until I was exposed to it. And so I was like, let's at least try to be exposed to something different.
Wow. Hey, listen, I want to just make sure I didn't get a chance to say hello to all of our guests, but it's so great to see new names and people have been along. I wanted special to thank, oh, like my mom showed up today to see you, Alicia. How nice is
Oh,
that?
hey, mom.
I know. I'm so happy to see her. Lori Day and Kay and Kathy and Joni and Erin and Donna, Diane. I can go through. I'll come back. But listen, make sure you ask your questions because we're going to get into the science stuff of it. Having just spent time at a magnet high school in Jacksonville, Florida, with all
Nice.
STEM girls, many of them, most of them, young women of color who raise their hands and say, where are the opportunities for me? They're hungry for them. What
Mhm.
advice would you give them?
I would say for them to look for the opportunities that apply specifically for them. So right now in STEM fields across our nation, um, they're understanding that our perspective is missing. So because our perspective is missing, there's a part of the puzzle that is missing for all of the things that we want to find out, because of our perspective is missing. So when you apply for those opportunities, look for the ones that will spark your interest on what you want to do, whether that's something that's short term, a current project that you want to work on now, or if it's something that you want to be a long term project that you want to start on it and then you want to see the outcome maybe 5 to 10 years later.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Artemis.
Yes.
All right. It's a great name, by the way. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about the project. It's pretty mind-blowing, actually, right?
So for Artemis 1 was our test mission, if you will. We did a fly by the moon, 28 days, and they returned back to Earth. And then for Artemis 2 is the mission where we are returning astronauts to fly around the moon. So this is the first time in over 50 years that astronauts have traveled around the moon. And seeing that, and this picture here is where what we call the core stage, and that's the main engine, one of the main engines after the boosters. And this was when it's arrived at Kennedy Space Center a couple of months ago. And as you can see per perspective, it
Oh,
looks
wait,
like
wait, wait, hold on. I thought you were holding up a little model. I actually bought in. It looks like you're holding it up, but no, that's actually the whole. I got it. All right, go ahead.
yes. And it is so huge that you can't even see that there are some people that are standing beside it. It's so huge. And it's so when you one of my old leads that retired, he used to say when his mom came to visit, she was like, NASA makes you feel like you're very small because everything is so big. Everything is so big in perspective. So yeah, with Artemis, we're sending astronauts back around the moon, and it's going to be a really great time for our nation to see putting astronauts back around the moon, and eventually boots on the moon.
So is that you?
Yes, that is me. That is my picture that's currently up inside of the Launch Control Center. This is actually, I was like 5 months at NASA at this time. We're performing a launch countdown simulation, which is a training event where we practice what it looks like for launch. And this picture was captured. I don't even know where the photographer was to even capture this picture. I think I was calling in to tell about something that was going on with my system, and they captured this great action shot of me, and I look like I know what I'm doing, and I probably didn't.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh my goodness, look at that.
Oh yeah, so this is when the spacecraft that we're using is called the Orion, and this is it flying around the moon. If there, I don't know which other picture she has, if she has one that shows like the little engine that's on the end, but there's another engine that's on the end of this rocket, and that's the one that's specifically the thing that I got to do. So that's people say, are you pushing the buttons? That's the button that I got to push on for Artemis 1 launch.
Right. All right, say that again, because like that's just so amazing. The button you had to push was which one?
It was not really a button, but there's a specific test that I got to run, and it was for that engine which guides the Orion spacecraft around the moon and to be able to come back. So I was able to test that system out to make sure it worked before Artemis 1 launch.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so tell me, you're in that room. We've seen
Mhm.
it kind of romanticized in movies and news clips, right? All the engineers are there, they're watching all their screens. What are you guys all feeling? And are you all connected in that feeling?
Yes, it is a big team effort. We know that while even though we're sitting, monitoring our set of screens, we know that the person beside us and the person that is behind us, we are responsible for our respective systems. And we know that if one person may miss something, there's another person that can possibly catch it. And so we all have each other's back. It's all teamwork. And as the launch director always says, she's amazing. That we are part of the team. She may get the recognition, but it's all a team effort. And if any part of the team is missing, then we don't have a full team, and we aren't capable of doing what we need to do.
So how many people are involved in the mission and then specifically on the launch?
Oh, in the mission, I cannot tell you how many because we have people that are at the Johnson Space Center that are mission control. So after we launch, it goes over to Johnson Space Center and mission control. We have people that are at Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville that are working with us, that are teaming with us. We have people from Lockheed Martin, from Boeing, from United Launch Alliance. So there's a great big team of people that you don't see. But then inside of the firing room, we have the primary launch team, which is about 150 people. And then we have a secondary launch team that's about half of that. So there's a great big number of people that are all working. And then we work in shifts as well. So you think of that number plus shifts. So that's also something.
Oh, because it's there are people working 24/7
Yes.
on the launch. Okay.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry, I'm spending like a lot of information really fast. So it's
I
second
don't know,
nature to
people
me.
out
So
there,
I'm like, slow me
I'll tell
down.
you, here's what people have heard. First of all, your launch director is a woman.
Yes,
Wow.
her name is Charlie Blackwell Thompson. She is such an inspiration to me. She is so personable. Oh, like I truly admire her, and in situations that are really tough, you can tell that she's very empathetic to people. She is very empathetic to the mission. She's very empathetic for our cause and what we do, and then she also cares about her team as well. So she's not just saying, okay, we got to get it done, get it done, get it done. She wants to know that we're getting it done with the right amount of people, with the people rested and well able to be able to perform the work that we need to do to get it done.
Wow, that's great. Now tell us a little bit more about Artemis. We need to do Artemis in order to land people on the moon again. Is that the feeling?
So all the let's see how I can say it. The entire campaign is for people to get on the moon. So with Artemis 1 again was a test mission where we just kind of a proof of concept, if you will. Artemis 2 is also a test mission, but it's a test mission with astronauts. So they're just going to fly by the moon. So it's still a return to the moon, but we're not landing on the moon. And then Artemis 4 is when we're supposed to have boots on the moon. And
Wow.
that includes like Gateway and other programs as well. So it's a large collaboration.
But we've already done it right before, so why do we have to keep practicing?
Because we have a new rocket, we have new systems, we have new technology. So we did it once with Apollo. So since Apollo, we've had Space Shuttle, we've had Constellation and Ares 1X. So we had a lot of different programs. So some of that technology is still here, but then some of that we don't have the same old consoles that they used to have where they're actually pushing button. We have computer screens that we're doing and we're monitoring our data. They used to have printouts, like the data used to come on paper printouts that they would read and do things. We don't have that like that anymore. We monitor our telemetry, which is the information coming from the vehicle. We monitor that in a different way now via computer screens.
Wow.
So a lot
Okay.
of that technology has changed too.
All right. So I don't know what the timeline. You'll tell us about the timeline, but tell us what does being in space, what do we learn? What are the upsides from all of this investment in sending rockets into space, getting close to the moon? There's a lot of talk about Mars. What does that all mean for us?
So for us, I think it helps us to learn about how we can maintain life when we have limited resources, and also being able to spaces and like for on the International Space Station, they're growing crops, they're harvesting their own food. So those types of things help us here on Earth. And then also when we're going into space, we can see things because you have a different view of Earth from space. It can help you to put out other satellites that help us monitor. We are seeing what's going on in our excuse me, in the atmosphere. And as we're learning about those things there, we're able to bring that down and see how that can impact us here on Earth.
Wow. So it's a backup plan as well,
If we're all going to live on the moon, maybe, who knows?
right? We have enough people here. We need to populate another orb, I guess. You
Yeah.
know. Tell us like what are you most proud of? Because it's your enthusiasm and energy around this work is contagious.
Oh, wow.
What
Thank you.
what's no, what speaks to you loudest?
So for me, it was the launch of Artemis 1. That was the first. I think that's the biggest thing. I sent a picture of the launch if when it was launching. And the reason that's the most proudest to me is because not only because I got to do it and I got to push the button and do all of the that was the cool thing, but the thing that no one else saw. So being inside of the firing room, we actually don't get to see a whole lot of the launch. We only get to see maybe 10 to 15 seconds of it through the window as it's going up, and then we have to watch it like on the TV. So we don't get to see, yes. So this picture, I didn't get to see this in real life, but here's a picture of it. And so for me, the thing that that said to me was that you may never know the impact or realize the impact that you have on others, but you still have to launch anyway. There are
Wow.
great things that we all can do, and having our perspective in the room, you may never realize or see the full impact of it, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
So you feel like the flare of that incredibly powerful um, fire that comes out of this rocket
Yes.
consists of all of these elements that each one of you has contributed.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel it sounds like it's such an incredible team sport, right? You can't do it without each other. You need an incredible amount of trust and reliance. Uh,
Yes.
there's a lot of talk these days about talent,
Mhm.
and it sounds to me that you don't get in the room unless you qualify as a talented individual.
I'll say talent is something that can be learned for a particular project that you're doing. So if you don't know something, you can always learn more of it, and you can always hone your skills. And then that can get you into a room. But sometimes it's not really the talent that gets you in, it's your hard work and dedication really that's behind the ability to perform that talent. So I don't necessarily say it's the talent that gets you in the room. I mean, it helps, of course, but what keeps you in those rooms is your integrity and your hard work and your ability to do things.
Um, wow, I just love this. Let me just do this. We always do this, and welcome everybody who's here. To refresh, we're with Alescia Winsley, who is a lead space launch avionics systems engineer for NASA. We're learning
Mhm.
about her incredible career, her approach to life. How did she come from the smallest of the small and the poorest of the poor, right? To do like, things that are universal and special and life and research changing, as well as learning a little bit about how NASA works today. Tell us about that. I mean, have there been massive changes in the way our country approaches space? Because it seems like we're doing a lot of good things.
I think we do. We now in our current era, we partner a lot with commercial systems. So we partner with SpaceX, we partner with United Launch Alliance, we partner with Boeing. So we also do. So it's not just NASA doing all of the work or the federal government doing all the work. We're relying on those commercial partners as well to do part of the work, and that's a little different than how it used to be.
Well, so you've been there 5 years, you said, right?
Yes.
So what have you seen change the most during your tenure at your job?
Oh, what have I seen that's changed the most? Um, I think going through COVID
Oh,
changed
wow, yeah.
it changed the way we did things because the reality is that we didn't stop working. We just changed our work location. So throughout the entire pandemic, we were working on uh the launch of Artemis I because if we would have, just stopped as most of the world did. So we didn't do that, but it showed and it proved that we have very smart and capable people doing some really hard things. And even in really unforeseen circumstances, we can still do the things that we are able to do.
Right? Isn't that a great message, though?
Hmm.
Maybe that's what conquering space is, another great message for all of us. We
Yeah.
can do the unimaginable. We can do the unthinkable. We can do all of it if we put our minds to it.
Yes.
I mean, and you talk about being a person of faith,
Yes.
and how that informs your work as well.
Yes, it does. I don't take it for granted that I get to work where people pay to visit. I don't take that I don't take that lightly at all. And so every time I am afforded an opportunity to do what I do, I'm very grateful that, God has blessed me with the ability to, with this knowledge, and then not only just the knowledge, but to be able to retain it and keep it and then come back and pull on it when I need it. So all of there's no way I could be where I am without God and my faith in him.
It's interesting when you hear scientists, right, talk about their faith. And I've heard a lot of people in space and that, incredible moment, even that picture of the moon. It was just,
Hmm.
it's really incredible, right?
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit more about your job. Artemis 2 is scheduled for when, and what is your assignment and the team's assignment as you prepare for the next launch?
So our scheduled date is no later than April of 2026. And my assignment is I am an avionics engineer. So what that means is let's see. So I like to tell, this is what I tell the students when I go visit to make sense to them. We are like the brains of the rocket that make sure all of the parts talk to each other, and then that when we send commands to do something with the rocket, that they work. And we're able to monitor all of those systems together.
Wow. Okay, so how do you learn that?
Um, through So a lot of it is I have a background in computer engineering, and in our computer engineering we did a lot of coding and things like that. So I'm able to read code. I'm able to understand flight software or software and how it works with computer systems. And then a lot of it you just kind of learn when you're on the job. You put those pieces together, the things that you learn in the classroom, you're putting it together with real world and seeing how it works in your field. Uh, that's kind of how you that's kind of how I learned all of what I'm doing.
And in terms of the feedback loop,
Mhm.
how often are you and your team hearing like, okay, we got here, but we need to either make it better or it doesn't work? I assume that a lot of progress is built on learning what doesn't work as much as what works.
Yes, actually we learn a lot based on we do a lot of testing. So before we get the like the hardware you saw, before we get that at Kennedy Space Center, we do a lot of testing. So I do get to visit Denver. There's a lab in Denver, there's a lab in Houston, and then there's a lab in Huntsville. So we go and test out all of this software before we do it on the vehicle for the first time. So that's something that we always do. So we're going to test out our proof of concept. We also have simulations, that the practice simulation. So to learn how things work, or if there were a problem, how we would address those. We have all of these things and concepts laid out before we're even doing that with the real hardware.
Good. Excuse me. Now you
Mhm.
have three sons.
Yes.
What do they think about your work? Are they inspired to follow in your footsteps? What do they think when they're at the launch pad?
They do not care. They do not care at all. Not at all. Um, Now my oldest son is 19 and he's in college, so now he's understanding. My middle son is 12. He's in middle school. They've gone to work with me a couple of times. They're like, okay, we've done this enough. All right, we get it. You work at NASA. It's a cool place. Okay, what else? And that's kind of how they are. I think they really aren't at the age where they can really appreciate and understand what it is that I'm doing or what I'm a part of. And I think when they come to that realization, they'll understand, like, wow, I was there. Because they were there for the night of Artemis art, because we got to get passes so we could have our family members to be able to come because we were working. And so they were able to be there, like, close to see all of that. And so when they're older, and I'm like, yeah, you remember when? And I think that conversation is going to be really great.
Oh, definitely. They'll be like, "You did what, mom?
Yeah.
What? What?" Right?
Yes.
I know it takes a little while for that to kick in. You do mention students,
Mhm.
and we did meet you at Wow Orlando, and
Yes.
there is you said I always take notes just so you know.
Yes.
You said what else is out there?
Hmm.
And not all young women or even young men ask those questions, right?
Hmm.
Or say, I can be what I can see or what I can't see, and you
Hmm.
chose what you couldn't. And it's funny, in Gen Wow, we do a lot on being what you can't see so people can see these things, to know there are even possibilities. And the work that you do, right, in terms of computer engineering is
Hmm.
constantly creating new opportunities, right? So
Yes.
how do you talk? How do all of us not only talk to young women, but everyone who in a time and a place where so much is changing so fast?
I think one of my biggest things is that I love to go visit schools. Um, Particularly I prefer to go in elementary schools because they're the youngest and they're the most like, oh man, they have the most amazing questions that keep me on my toes. Like that's where I go after I need to learn more material. But I love going to visit schools because if you've I never saw it originally growing up. Yes, Hidden Figures came out a whole lot later, but I didn't know that there were people that looked like me that were a part of NASA, not even just NASA in itself, but in this type of engineering uh at all. And so with that, I try to be at least a representation of, hey, this is what you can do, and these are some things you can talk about. And then not only that, just in STEM fields overall, just encouraging people like, yes, it's great to want to aspire to be maybe, basketball players or sports players because we see sports a lot every season. There's a new sport, but there are other things that you can do that are great as well. You can go and be a doctor, you can go and be a lawyer, you can go and be an engineer, you can go be a scientist, you can do chemical experiments. There are so many different things that are out there for people to do, and sometimes we just don't know about it. I recently was at an event as a recruiter, and a lot of people actually didn't know what NASA does other than aerospace. And so my tagline for after like the third person that I talked to, that they were like, I am in business. What can I do at NASA? I was like, oh, my tagline is, you see the rockets, they're the people behind the rocket. So there are people that work on the budget that make sure we have the budget to be able to perform it. There are people that work the contracts to get all the supplies that we need. There are the scientists that are making sure our experiments are great. There are the chemists making sure we have the right commodities and the levels that we need to do it. We have people that are working infrastructure that are helping build the platforms inside of the vehicle assembly building, making sure all of those things work. There are crane operators that are specialized to be able to lift the rocket, and knowing how to get like that. That's like an art that's bananas. If you've ever seen the lift of the rocket inside of the vehicle assembly building, that's amazing to see, like the expertise. I'm like, I can barely draw straight. So all of these things are available for people, and sometimes you just don't know because you never heard of it. And so the more you hear about it, or the more that they're talked about, you'll be like, oh, that may be something that I may be interested in doing.
No, that's so true. And you have some more things of interest to share with us. We always ask our guests to share three of the takeaways you would like all of us to think about. And I guess number one is, where you start is just the launch pad. Possibilities are limitless. And I think that's one thing I am strongly taking away from today. Thank you for that, Alicia. But tell us about that for you.
I mentioned, and of course, someone wanted more their grass while I'm in a meeting. I mentioned about where I came from, and that I never thought that where I am now would be somewhere that I could be, and because of that, I didn't dream unless, or I took it to someone and they kind of gave me a little bit of direction. So with that, just never ever limit yourself to where you are or what you can see. Always imagine the possibilities, and even if you're in a place now where um things may be even great, now there's still even greater things that you could possibly do.
Well, that's inspiring. I love that. I'm taking notes for sure. How about be intentional, lift others to rise?
So there is always room at the table for everyone. And as I learn more, I want to be able to pour what I learn more into others who may not know. So as I'm learning more information and gaining more wisdom, I am finding ways to be able to share that with others, whether they're in the same circles as me, or whether they're people that are younger than me, or there are people that are just starting out in their careers. I want to be able to share some of the things that I have learned along the way to be able to help them to be able to be a little bit more successful than I am. And even if that means that they come and surpass me, that's perfectly okay, as long as I'm able to share what I have with others.
Right. And lastly, embracing individuality.
Um, for a long time, if you can believe it or not, I was shy and wanted to be like the person, the fly on the wall that no one noticed. I still am that way sometimes now. But it wasn't until I realized that my uniqueness is not on anyone else. God made me specifically how he made me, with this bubbly personality that can see things in ways other people can't see, and can also empathize with people greatly. And because of that, when I'm in the room, there's no one else that's in that room just like me. So if I choose to shrink back or withhold what's inside of me, then there's a part of the light that's not shining. And in dark spaces, you never, in any space, a little bit of light can, even in a space that's lit like this, even a little more light shines brighter.
And that is absolutely true. As far as that concerned, and people are really enjoying, right? Are enjoying just learning from you. Let me ask you this question. As you think about space as a yet to be fully explored frontier, there's so much to learn more about space. If you could pick one, two, or three things that you would hope that we could learn about
Mm.
space, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, thank you.
Things that things that I think we could learn
Or you would
about.
like to,
Say that one more time.
or you would like to learn, right? Yeah.
That we
Things
would like to learn about space. Um, I think the thing that I would like to learn is uh the concept of distance, and in, well, the let's see how I can say it differently, to actually realize the concept of distance. So we know that it takes a couple of days to get to the moon, and it takes a couple of months to get to Mars. But to actually see that in person, it'll help us to realize that the people we're connected to matter even more, and to be more empathetic to them. So like, it's this long of a distance when we're so far apart, but if we realize that the person that is next to us or across the street, how they are so much important to us, it'll help us to be more kind to each other.
Right. And speaking of important people,
Hmm.
I'm not going to say this person's name, but there was a question posed, and I think we all feel like that. You have done so well emerging from your hometown. You still
Hmm.
feel very connected to it. But when you
Yes.
go back there,
Hmm.
how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel. I actually recently went back last week for my grandmother's funeral, and it was amazing. As I had a moment where I was sad, and we have this little hill in our front yard, so I stood on the hill and like ran down it like I did when I was a kid. It brought back so many memories of where I started, to be able to appreciate the things that I didn't have at the time, and how my mom and my grandmother and my family members, they struggle to be able to get to a place where they see me being able to do it, the hard work that they put in when we had the barns and the animals, and I used to have to go into the garden to pick our vegetables, and we used to barter with the other people, like, if you give us fish, we'll give you some vegetable and beans. So those things, the sense of community, and how everyone knows each other, and how everyone shares it. And then hearing people that I grew up with, when they tell me how proud they are of me, and then that they share me with their children, that's like an honor um, that I don't take lightly. And knowing that not only am I doing it for me and the little girl that's me and in my family, but I'm also a representation of to some other people of what they can do and inspiring them. That's really humbling for me.
So you feel connected to them. Do you feel any of them feel like, oh my goodness, you've gone on to be so successful, we can't relate to you anymore? Or you can't, or do you feel that kind of pushback at all?
No, I don't. Or I I have not experienced that. I think because we were such a small town, and so everybody knows everybody, that we still all know each other. So they don't call me Alescia. When I go home, they call me Lisa. That was my nickname growing up. So I'm still Lisa to them. No matter if I change my name 1,000 times, I'll still be little redheaded Lisa to them. And that's how they not that they try and hold me to that, but that's still what that it gives me a sense of belonging, that
Yeah,
they
yeah,
know a level of me that other people may not ever
yeah.
know.
Well, let me just say this, Alicia. I think that you have given all of us a sense of belonging today, and we
Um,
are proud to feel like we belong to you and you belong to us.
Thank you.
We are at the end of Black History Month, and
Yes.
you talk about representation and you speak about it eloquently and beautifully and why it's important that we're all seen, and you show us how you've been seen and how that impacts all of us, no matter who we are. And I
Hmm.
think we feel really, really grateful to you for that. So we wanted to
Oh,
say
thank you.
thank you.
Thank
No,
you.
you do. And on March 1st, of course, we'll begin to celebrate Women's History Month. And I
Yes.
think the thing that I always feel, I'm going to write a little bit about this, is when people, the threat of taking away,
Hmm.
recognizing beautiful and wonderful accomplishment and belonging, you begin to
Hmm.
realize why it's so important. And I think
Yes.
today, in addition to learning about space and Artemis, and I want to learn so much more, you really taught us about the importance of our space and connectivity with each other. And so I
Yes.
want to say thank you for joining us on Refresh. Based on all the
Thank you.
comments, I think you refreshed all of our spirits. I want to
Thank you.
remind everybody that we are planning, working hard, and we want to be with you, whether in person in Jacksonville, Florida, or whether it's online for Generation W Explorer. We've been exploring all year to be able to share with you, ignite your spirit of adventure, your curiosity, your learning, and of course, as Alicia said so well, how important our connectivity is. And our speakers, these are just some of them, not all of them, but focused on really important areas. Dr. Dawn Musalem, extraordinarily intelligent, thoughtful, optimistic person. Her story, much like yours, Alicia, it really inspires us. And she's taken that to create an incredible body of work that continues to inspire us. Tina Lifford, I mentioned in the beginning, a famous actress, Auntie Vi, I guess Aunt Vi, who was on Queen Sugar. She talks about inner fitness. We're going to do Kelly Watson, IBM. We'll talk about AI and women's health. Ian Beecraft, one of the most impactful speakers on AI I've ever seen. I am so grateful that he said yes, he's going to come talk to us. Jennifer, we're going to talk about who we are, the president of research for the Harris Poll. Like, who are we? Like, what really, as Americans, who are we? I think we'll learn again, as you say, Alicia, we're so much more alike than we are not. And then also, we're going to learn a lot about history, right? Why do we not see enough women's names? Alicia, where's your name going to be in the history of Artemis? We want to make sure we read about you, right? So everybody, please come back and join us. Always enjoy. Listen, if I started a little dark this morning, I'm feeling good. Thank you so much for joining us. Sarah Beatty Buller, an incredible person who, in her pursuit of passion, makes things happen. She builds communities, cherishes history, and explores how to lead a purposeful life. She's the co-founder of Montgomery Builds, established in 2013, which is an effort. And I was just there 2 weeks ago. I came back incredibly impacted in so many ways by experiencing Montgomery, Alabama, and how a committed group of people can create change, build community, build connectivity, enhance the arts, all of that. So Sarah will be with us. She's been on the main stage at Generation W before. I know that you will love her and the conversation. So we'll see you then. So until then, Alescia, one more time, thank you. Thank you to our Generation W community. Thank you to Sherry Levin, who's unbelievably purposeful and committed work to this programming makes a difference for all of us. So thanks, Sherry, and to our entire Generation W team. Take care, everyone.
Bye, thank you.